This video contains discussion of real-life violence, child deaths, and mental health issues. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The content is intended for educational and informational purposes only and aims to raise awareness about systemic failures and the importance of mental health support. Out of respect for the victims and their families, this presentation avoids gratuitous detail and emphasizes factual reporting. American Nightmare, the Travis Decker tragedy and his slain daughters. A father's promise, 3 innocent smiles, a visit. That was supposed to be just a few hours of family time. But by nightfall, that promise was shattered, those smiles gone. A desperate search kicked off, and within days, the darkest fears became a horrifying reality. The nation was left asking one chilling question: how could a father turn into the American nightmare his family never imagined? In the quiet community of Wenatchee, Washington, life for Whitney Decker and her 3 young daughters, 9-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 5-year-old Olivia, was supposed to be about rebuilding. After a tough marriage came to an end, Whitney had full custody and was focused on creating a safe, happy home for her girls. Travis Decker, their father, had visitation rights. It was all carefully planned to keep him connected to his daughters. But on May 30th, 2025, that fragile peace was about to be destroyed in the most horrific way, leading to an unthinkable crime. It would spark a nationwide manhunt for a man people called a wilderness expert, a former soldier, and now an accused killer. This is the story of the Travis Decker tragedy, a devastating chain of events that tore a family apart and left a community heartbroken. Friday, May 30th, 2025, started like any other scheduled visit. Around 5 p.m., Travis Decker picked up Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. The parenting plan was crystal clear. The girls had to be back home by 10 p.m. that night. But as the hours crept by, Whitney Decker waited. 10 p.m. came and went. No Travis, no girls. Whitney's calls to Travis's phone went straight to voicemail, an unsettling silence where her daughter's giggles should have been. That knot of dread started to tighten. This wasn't just running late. Something felt terribly wrong. Her gut screamed that her children were in danger. Unable to get through to him, and with panic setting in, Whitney Decker called the Wenatchee Police Department. She filed a civil complaint, just hoping for answers, hoping her girls were safe. At first, it was treated as a procedural matter, but as hours bled into days, that concern would explode into a full-blown investigation. The parenting plan, set up back in September 2024, already put limits on Travis's time with his daughters. These weren't just random rules. They came from Whitney's real fears about his mental health and stability. He was only allowed to see them every other weekend, no overnight stays, and he couldn't take the kids out of the area. These were safeguards, meant to protect Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. Now, they felt tragically, horribly inadequate. The search for Travis Decker and his 3 daughters ramped up. Law enforcement agencies teamed up, knowing that every single moment counted. But the breakthrough, when it finally came, was devastating. On Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025, authorities found Travis Decker's empty vehicle. It was abandoned near the Rock Island campground in Chelan County, Washington, a beautiful, scenic spot that was now the backdrop for an unfolding nightmare. What they found around that truck was sickening. Investigators uncovered a series of horrific clues that painted a chilling picture of the girls' last moments. The bodies of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia were discovered near the campground. The details that emerged were stomach-turning. Plastic bags had been pulled over each little girl's head. Their small wrists were bound with zip ties. 2 bloody handprints stood out starkly on the tailgate of Decker's truck. More zip ties and plastic bags were reportedly found scattered throughout the area, remnants of an unimaginable act of violence. Preliminary reports suggested a terrifying cause of death. The 3 little girls had likely died by asphyxiation. The scene was combed for every shred of evidence, each discovery adding another layer to this horror story. Court documents would later reveal something else disturbing. Analysis of Decker's cell phone activity showed he'd driven to and left that same campground the day before the abduction on May 29th. This wasn't some sudden impulsive act of violence. This pointed to a chilling premeditation, a plan hatched before he ever picked up his daughters for that last, tragic visit. With the terrible discovery of his daughters, Travis Decker wasn't just a missing person anymore. He was the prime suspect in their murders. A massive manhunt was launched. Authorities knew they were up against a dangerous man. Decker, 32, was described as being well-versed in wilderness survival and able to spend days at a time off the grid with little equipment. His military background just made the search even more complicated. Travis Caleb Decker had served in the U.S. Army. He was part of the 503rd Infantry Regiment, 173rd Airborne Brigade combat team, and had been stationed in Italy back in 2017. Public photos showed him with a Ranger tab, a badge of elite military training. However, word began to surface that while he'd attended Ranger School, he didn't actually complete the brutal course and was later removed from the prestigious Ranger Regiment. A former squadmate gave a little insight into his personality, calling Decker quiet, a bit of an outcast, yet a hard worker and somewhat of a narcissist. This painted a picture of a man who could potentially slip away, resourceful, and maybe dangerously sure of his ability to dodge capture. The search area was huge and rugged, covering terrain Decker knew like the back of his hand. Local police, sheriff's departments, and federal authorities all threw their resources into the hunt. They put out alerts to the public, sharing Decker's photo and description, and warning that he was considered armed and dangerous. The community, already reeling from the news of the girls' deaths, was now on high alert, with authorities urging people to lock all doors as the manhunt intensified. Recent Ring camera footage showing Decker in the days before the murders was passed around in the hope that someone might recognize him or remember some crucial detail. As the search pressed on, bits and pieces about Travis Decker's past and his relationship with Whitney started to come out. It offered some context, though certainly no excuse, for the horrific way things had turned. Travis and Whitney Decker had been married for about 7 to 10 years. It was Travis who ended the marriage in 2023. According to Whitney's attorney, Travis gave a pretty unsettling reason for wanting out. He felt like he wasn't worth it. This feeling of worthlessness seemed to be a pattern. Whitney had full custody of their daughters, a decision that highlighted her increasing worries about Travis's mental state. She remembered disturbing episodes during their marriage. Times Travis would wake her up in the middle of the night screaming at her, or would just disappear for stretches of time. These weren't just one-off incidents. They were part of a pattern of erratic behavior that understandably scared her. Towards the end of their marriage, he got a diagnosis: borderline personality disorder. But reports suggested he wasn't consistently taking the medication prescribed for it. This information, along with his past behavior, sketched a picture of a man battling serious mental health issues that might have been getting worse. The limits on his parenting time were a direct result of these concerns, a mother trying to protect her kids from instability. But even with these precautions, the system meant to keep them safe ultimately failed in the face of an unimaginable betrayal. Police haven't yet offered a possible motive for the killings, leaving a gaping hole where answers should be. The deaths of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia Decker sent shockwaves way beyond Wenatchee Valley. The brutal way they died, their sheer innocence, and the alleged betrayal by their own father hit hard, stirring up a collective feeling of grief and anger. A GoFundMe page was set up for Whitney Decker by a friend, Amy Edwards, to help her handle the unimaginable financial and emotional nightmare. Amy, who knew the family through the happy chaos of dance and theater activities, wrote, The pain of this loss is immeasurable. These beautiful girls, Peyton, Evelyn and Olivia, were tragically taken from us too soon. Her words captured what an entire community struggling to make sense of the tragedy was feeling. As the manhunt for Travis Decker escalated, he became a federally wanted fugitive, his face plastered on wanted posters across the country. The charges against him were heavy. 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of kidnapping, and custodial interference. Law enforcement officials stressed that the search was nationwide, warning the Decker could be anywhere within the nation. Tips started flooding in from different states, a clear sign of the public's desperate need to help bring him to justice. The case brought up some tough questions about mental health support, especially for veterans who might find it hard to get or accept help. It made people worry about the family court system and whether it can really protect children in messy custody battles, particularly when mental illness is in the mix. And it was a harsh reminder of the devastating fallout when warning signs are there, but not enough to stop someone determined to commit such horrific acts. The search for answers and for Travis Decker goes on. Before we close this story, we want to hear from you. Do you think this tragedy could have been prevented? Should Amber Alert rules be changed in cases involving mental health concerns? What more can courts and communities do to protect children? Caught in the middle? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Drop it to honor the memory of Peyton, Evelyn and Olivia. And if you work in family law, mental health or child advocacy, your perspective matters more than ever. Hit follow or subscribe if you want more in-depth cases and conversations that don't just tell the story, they ask the hard questions.